listening to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. This is Dr. Charles Laux. We are recording our episode number 103 with a wonderful, dynamic conductor. She teaches at Georgia State University here in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta area. And I'm really proud to have Dr. Tamara Dworetz here on the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Tamara, thank you so much for being here. You've been doing some just incredible things in the field, and I'm so excited for you to share your story with us, and then some of the awesome things that you're able to do on the podium. So welcome to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Every time I was, for the last few years, I'd look on social media and then there's Tamara doing this and Tamara's here and Tamara's here. It's like amazing what you've done. And so I know you have the educator background as well, and you're a product of the Atlanta Public Schools here. So would you just tell us a little bit about your background to get started so people can get to know you?
Yeah, thank you. So I grew up in Fulton County. I went to North Springs High School. I started playing trumpet in actually Woodland Elementary School, 4th grade band with David Hedges. And I participated when I got to high school. I was did All-State, and I did a lot of the offerings of the youth ensembles in Atlanta, like ASYO, MISO.
There's a lot of them, yeah.
All the things. So I really feel like I'm really a product of Atlanta music educators, and I was inspired to pursue conducting from music educators. So that I always envisioned being someone who could connect with people, mm-hmm. and also take the music to the next level. And sometimes in the conducting world, that isn't always in the same package.
Right.
So, I've sought out, different mentors to work with who I think kind of have that ideal. And yeah, so one of my mentors was Bramwell Tovey. There's a famous video of him. He was the conductor of the Vancouver Symphony in Canada. There's a famous video of him conducting and narrating Peter and the Wolf with the Vancouver Symphony. And
while conducting.
Inspector Tovey, so just a really community-oriented person. And so I'm happy to be back in Atlanta and try to share what Atlanta gave to me.
Yeah, so you taught high school for a little bit.
Yes,
right?
Taught 1 year Alpharetta High School, mm-hmm. as assistant band director. That was my first job after undergrad, and then I went over to Lakeside High School to be the orchestra director for 3 years.
Okay. And then you went back to grad school and got your other degrees, and then all these amazing opportunities you were able to take advantage of and win positions. Maybe we should start first. Like, I'm always interested because as a white male, there's all these things, but I know the conducting world is so full of men conductors. Can you tell us about some of the things that you've gone through as a female conductor you've conducted some great orchestras. I'm reading your bio over here. Can you tell us a little bit about, some of the trials and tribulations and some of the things that you had to go through, if any, but I'm sure there were some.
I think I've been really lucky, and I think there's never been anything that.
Well, I don't think it's luck. I think you're awesome, and that's why you're getting these positions. So carry on.
I guess there's been nothing overt. No overt sexism that I've experienced. However, it's so hard to pinpoint because I just think in general there's a tendency. I mean, it's just a super generalization. There's just a tendency for people to be a little more suspect of a woman leader. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to be extremely effective, and you can't, I found there's a lot of extra pressure to not not mess up.
Right.
And so I would say I've been lucky in terms of that I haven't experienced overt sexism.
That's great.
But there's probably been little micro things that have happened. Sure. No doubt it's a different journey, but I do think that things are getting significantly better. I do think it's going to take several more generations.
Yeah. Well, and it's people like you going out there and being like, I'm just going to do my thing, and doing your thing and doing it amazingly, that are just that, if there's any kind of doubts in people's minds, you're just like, oh, that's my mind has been changed.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because when I was in the Atlanta Symphony Youth Orchestra, I got to experience 2 women conductors. Jerry Flint was the music director, but at the time there was, I think it was a fellowship, or maybe it was an assistant conducting position, and Laura Jackson was one of them. And there was just one rehearsal she conducted us. She's now the conductor of the Reno Philharmonic. And then Ann Chen, who is now the conductor of the Chicago Sinfonietta and guests for the major orchestras over the world. So I did have kind of an example in high school, and that did impact me a lot.
I'm sure. Those are amazing people, and wow, very cool. It's just interesting to hear this, and I'm sure that, like you said, there's a lot of pressure. I'm sure there's always, we all have imposter syndrome, and I don't know if you've ever experienced that as well, but no matter how all the great things that we do, or pieces we teach, and the kids the product we make, or whatever it might be, I'm sure there's always we all have that level of imposter syndrome, and everybody out there that's listening can, I'm sure, relate in one way or another. People that probably think, I've done 200 presentations, are like, oh, you don't get nervous anymore. No, I still do, because my biggest worry, I guess, is always, are they going to know everything I'm going to say? And
right.
And some people do. If I go, speak for, I was up in Gwinnett, and we had all these amazing teachers who know everything. And I'm like, am I going to be able to present anything new? And, sometimes you just present it in a different way, or I don't know. So there's always that imposter syndrome, no matter what you do, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's terrible what goes through our mind sometimes. But this is great. So once you got done with obviously you started doing a lot of conducting while you were doing your degrees, but what would you say was like one of the pivotal experiences that you've had? The Orchestra Teacher Podcast is sponsored by Kaleidoscope Adventures. Recruiting and retaining talented musicians is essential for new orchestra directors building a program. And one of my favorite tips for generating interest is to plan a trip. There are so many options. You can participate in a festival at an amusement park, take the stage at Carnegie Hall in New York City, or travel abroad and perform in Vienna, the legendary city of music. Wherever you end up, not only will your current students look forward to the trip, but younger students will count the days until it's their turn to go. If you have no idea where to start, connect with Kaleidoscope Adventures by visiting the link in the show notes. They've been planning exceptional performance travel since 1993 and will make you look like a seasoned professional.
That's a good question. I would say probably there's two experiences I got during my doctorate at Boston University. One was, it was the centenary of Leonard Bernstein and Boston Pops did a conducting competition in his honor. Wow. So I got to conduct just for 5 minutes, but I got to conduct like the whole overture to Candide with the Boston Pops, which is essentially the Boston Symphony minus just a couple of the principal string players. But I mean, like the assistant, associate, and fifth chair and sixth chair are still like incredible. So that was pretty epic. And then also there was a program called the Dallas Opera Heart Institute for Women Conductors, and just for women. And they basically it's an intensive week, and you have rehearsals, and you're coached, and it's not just on conducting, it's on public speaking, it's on interviewing, it's on this and this, a lot of off the skills too. And it was like boot camp. Even for the meals, we would be seated next to like these major $1 million donors, like the hearts of the Heart Institute.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Or is it the Winspear? The Winspears. I think I sat next to the Winspears, which is the Winspear Opera Center in Dallas.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So like you had to kind of be on your game the whole time. That was an incredibly empowering opportunity, and I hadn't had much opera experience up until then. So those are both kind of, they gave me, on the outside, those are both the Dallas Opera, the Boston Pops, but also on the inside, it just gave me some inner confidence and skills that is
really
amazing.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to hear. these success stories of conductors, and how they kind of go up, and then Georgia State came along.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that. I mean, they've had I don't know the history of the program necessarily, but as a former Kennesaw professor, I would say that you were kind of like the enemy for a little while, as far as recruiting goes and this and that.
Metro Atlanta.
So, but you've done some amazing things there, and really, I think, I don't know if it's a revitalization, but just brought a level of energy that in the years that I've been in town, I haven't seen that 100%. So that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about Georgia State, and feel free to put in your plug for recruiting if you need grad students or.
Thank you. Yeah, so Georgia State, so the previous music director, I think he was there about 15 to 20 years, was Michael Palmer, who was assistant conductor under Robert Shaw with the Atlanta Symphony. And funny enough, Michael Palmer was my all-state conductor in 10th grade. He was actually one of those people I would mention who inspired me growing up. There was I'll never forget. I can remember it so vividly. It was a simple warm-up that he did with us, and it was a scale, and he just did different conducting gestures that showed different dynamics, different styles, different tempo. And the way he responded to us, it was like, oh my God, I actually matter. Like, this is actually a relational activity. He's not just up there waving. And it just totally clicked for me, because he was actually responding to us and treating us honestly, Right. And
kids could read through baloney. They really can, especially high school kids are like they get the eye rolls and that kind of thing. So they can read through baloney, it's amazing. So when you were in 10th grade, did you ever think, someday I'll probably take his job?
Not at all. Not at all. I was still just happy to make all-state. I was just
right at that point. Well, on trumpet though,
on trumpet,
you got to be pretty good. So that's.
I was one of those kids who was just like, oh my God, I got to get into all-state, and I would wake up early before school and practice, and that was like the highlight. So, but I'm so glad it was, because I got to work with music educators like him, and just being around all the other students who are so excited and wanting to be there. It was like the best. That was the best for me. But so Georgia State. So it was an honor to kind of follow Michael, and
for sure.
I've been there now. I just finished my second year, and we have a really incredible string faculty. We just hired a new full-time tenure track violin professor named Serena Shibeli,
and Serena's awesome. I've had her at my for sectionals, and she's just great, and I'm so happy for her, because she's been working it in little adjunct here and lots of outreach, and then boom. So I'm super happy for Serena. I gotta probably get her on here too, talk to everybody, but she's amazing.
Great. We're so thrilled to have her. Then of course we have Tanya Maxwell Clemens, who's been kind of holding down the fort for I think about 20 years, and she's truly an anchor of the string program at Georgia State. And she plays a lot in the opera and the symphony.
She conducted our all county last year, and just did a fantastic job. Oh my gosh.
And she's the music director of our campus orchestra too, which she started. We just finished their third year.
And that's the great thing about these all campus groups. I as a high school teacher, you all out there got to spread the word that almost every college has something like this. Especially the larger schools will have an all-campus orchestra where they come, twice a week or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And continue playing, because I tell my kids, you stop playing, you're going to forget how to play. My great friend from high school, one of them in particular, she's like, I don't even remember how to read music anymore. I don't know how to play anything. I'm like, she was probably better than me in high school. And it's, you use it or lose it, folks. So this is a great way to get that outreach or continue the skills building.
Exactly. And I feel like that's the service I feel like I can try to do to support local high school music educators, because there's such an investment of time and energy and sweat and tears into these programs and students. And it's like the least we can do is help kind of continue the students make that transition and keep it going, so that it's a little bit of the butterfly effect for them. But yeah, we are so excited to have the Campus Orchestra. It's open to all students. They don't even have to audition. The only requirement is that they played for a couple of years in high school.
Right.
And they just had a great concert. That end of the season concert featured our music education faculty, Martin Norgard, on some pieces he wrote, and also he improvised. He's a great jazz fiddler.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
And they also featured a composition by a student who's in the orchestra, and then one of my conducting students, Garrett Clay, who went to Kennesaw State, he arranged Lord of the Rings for them.
Wow.
Incredible arrangement, like stomping and some extended techniques, and it was one of my favorite concerts.
That's so cool. That sounds like a great program. I mean, it can be challenging putting together the I did the all campus orchestra at Kennesaw when I was there as a music professor, and it's always challenging because every semester there'll be kids like, oh, I can't do it this semester because I have this class, and then there's new kids that come in, and so it's kind of a revolving door sometimes. You get kids who are committed and will be able to stay for semester after semester, but not always. And so that was always a challenge. And you get kids who, like were really gung-ho in high school, and other kids who just like to play the back of the section. So you kind of have to, it was always a tough balancing game, but so much fun. And I know the kids love to play, and, it's casual, and it's a social time too, to meet new people. So.
And as you said, it's just 2 days a week. So it's such a much smaller commitment usually than high school. So I think it's very easy to kind of just, I tell students when I visit high schools, like, it's just about finding your balance between music and everything else. Like,
that's right.
Everyone has you have your own balance. And it's just about finding that. And so I think it's a perfect opportunity, and again, like, as you said, most schools have a campus orchestra. So it's just like a no-brainer. And the GSU Symphony, we're really excited, this coming year is going to feature Tracy Silverman.
Wow. Yeah. He's wonderful.
He's incredible, and he's going to perform with us at our first GSU Symphony concert, and he's also going to be our guest artist at String Day, which is open to all middle and high school string players. So we'll be publicizing that soon, but we're really excited.
That's amazing news. Yeah, I definitely got to get my kids to come to that.
Yeah, he's so cool.
So as an educator and conductor, and you do outreach and things, what are some of the things, and I know you do some adjudication and whatnot too, what are some of the things that you see high school conductors do? Because, I have 3 degrees. One of them, they're all in music education, and I took conducting in obviously my undergrad, and I took some of my master's work. I took a little bit in doctorate. I did some study with a wind conductor for my doctorate a little bit too, but the focus is definitely not on that. And for most people, they may not take the extra classes during their master's or doctorate work. And we get through these degrees, and the last time we had a real conducting class was, junior years of college. What are some things that you see, whether it's technique or rehearsal skills, what are some things that you see out there in the fields that you think maybe we could work on, or maybe we could think about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So I would say there's a couple things I definitely see kind of consistently. I think that it's kind of, we have to compartmentalize better between classroom management and that kind of artistic arena. So a lot of times I'll see teachers come up to the podium, and they're kind of like, it's almost like kind of for lack of a better term, like kind of policing. It's like, is everybody watching me? Are you ready to go? Do we have our instruments up? But it's not, versus coming up to the podium and creating a space that's kind of encouraging of vulnerability and sharing. And sharing. And I think to me, that's kind of the number one thing in music education, is if we can encourage, of course, dependent on the level, you just pick appropriate repertoire, but we need to pick, and that's really the most important thing, is picking repertoire that they have the capacity to overcome the technique and be able to get to that higher level of connection and sharing and listening. And so coming to the podium, what teachers, coming to the podium and just trying to foster that environment just through your body language. So not being stiff when you come up and starting all gestures from movement versus starting from stagnation.
Yeah.
Stagnation causes tension,
right.
But if you're starting from movement, it causes breath and it encourages kids to move. That's probably a huge,
the biggest thing. Yeah.
And it's harder than it sounds, because it's so stuck in the habit of, and there's so much going on teaching like 5 to 7 classes, and it's exhausting, and we just want to get through the class. And I totally get it.
Well, there's all these, in the public school world too, as you know, there's like all these distractions with, like they'll call you, or they'll send someone in to pull a kid out to go to a doctor's appointment, or a fire drill, or right. So I think, and for me, I felt lately particularly rushed to like get this music learned so we can do this concert in so many weeks. And instead of like feeling relaxed and being a little bit more natural with it, I feel sometimes like I'm really rushed. And I'm sure a lot of teachers out there feel the same way. It's like you get done with this first concert, and then it's like the next concert's coming up really quick, So I've tried to move my schedule a little bit next year, and I'm not doing a December concert because it was so stressful for the kids, and so we're doing one before Thanksgiving, and we're doing one early in the fall that'll be kind of an informist, and then that'll give us a little more time to prepare for our performance assessment. But hopefully that will alleviate some of my my anxiety about the next concert, and coming up and allow me to do more technical work. And then, like you said, just have a different aura of my classroom.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's so much about like picking the repertoire, and it's all music educators, we're all musicians. And I think we all get, my soul was fed more when like a student could like technically play something that was really hard, but when I felt like we were playing like kind of an organism, and that there was a give and a take. And again, that's what I was saying kind of with Michael Palmer in 10th grade, that relational aspect. That's what feeds me. And so if I pick music that allows us to kind of get through the technique parts, and then we have like half of or a third of the cycle left to kind of just work on the music making, the ensemble skills, the listening, then that's the part that always, it kind of, it's good for the students, and it also selfishly fed me as a teacher and kept me energized. And I think that's the part that if we do that more, then it also will help us with some bad conducting habits. Too, and we can actually work on, what is my hand doing to, help show this. We can actually get to those steps. Yeah. And so, it's so hard, but definitely picking the repertoire is in my opinion, the most important thing. And
there's a lot of, I don't know if it's pressure or ego or whatever it might be, to be like, I have 2 grade 6 groups and a grade 5 group, or that type of thing of the levels that we play for assessment, particularly, like, trying to get to that level. And I've kind of felt that pressure a little bit here too. So like, gotta have this group, and sometimes the kids just aren't ready for that. So, like you said, picking the appropriate music, that it's a challenging thing.
To be honest with you, when I'm looking at an ensemble, if I think, and I've made these mistakes myself, I've overprogrammed a million times.
Who has not? If anybody out there says you have never done it, you're lying. My judgment is based on, are those kids looking like robots, or are they looking like they are a part of something larger than themselves? And that's my number one thing. Yeah. And so I hope that can be a stronger judgment than the need of showcasing whatever grade you're doing in comparison to whatever other school, because it's not at all what it's about, obviously. But yeah, it's tough. I know there's so many variables and things to balance. For sure.
And it's good to program something that's extremely technically challenging to push the ensemble. There's always a place for that too. So I'm saying never do that. It's just sometimes that's the only the only way that things are happening.
Right. Yeah. And that's not healthy. And it's not healthy for the kids too, because they're just so stressed, and then they don't have the best performance, and they can't say, well, we performed these two pieces really well, and this one we didn't perform well. But if they're all too hard, then they're going to, they're not going to build any self-esteem and confidence,
Exactly. And those are why we became teachers, is to try to, it's those human aspects.
Yeah. Awesome. And then how about some like rehearsal strategies? Do you have anything or anything that you do besides, obviously, you mentioned that starting from movement, which is great, but what else, are there anything else that you can share that teachers can like put in a little box of tricks to help them,
Yeah, absolutely. And these are kind of tied together, what I've been talking about before. So the first thing is just the three W's. So that's who first, where next, and what.
Who, where, what.
Who, where, what. So we always want to start with, which section of the orchestra first, because if we start talking and we're talking for 30 seconds, blah, 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 and then we're like, yeah, this is just for the violas, then everyone else is like, oh God, they just wasted all those brain cells. So if you say who first, then what, and then, who first, then where, then what. Mm-hmm. That's the equation for success, and just the students, I think, will listen to you more because they're being efficient and they know when to listen and when not to listen.
So give us an example of something that you would say, just you can make it up.
Okay, so I would say, I always use the violas. Like violas measure 50. Can we make sure that we're really connecting the bows, down and up bows, just super connected when we do bow changes, something like that. Or low strings,
right?
Measure 100, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
But not saying measure 50, second violins. I mean, even that, people are attentive and then they're not. And it's just over time, I think that wears.
I guess it would grate on them, and then they'll be like, well, I'm not going to pay attention at all, because it might be me, but it might not be.
Exactly. And it's just, we see them every day, or, at least 3 days a week. So it really, it makes a big impact. I think it's just a really important thing. The other thing is just making it more relational. So always talking in terms of the other parts of the ensemble, and also in terms of the audience. I think we get lost in trying to just make the music better, but we forget to bring in the audience into the room, because to me, ultimately, that's what we're doing, is we're sharing the music with each other in the ensemble, and we're sharing it with the audience. And the music is going to fit together in a certain way. So there's like the bass line, and then there's the melody, and there's the harmony. So if everybody knows their role, their musical role, then they understand who they're kind of supporting. And then they feel it builds community.
Yeah.
It also, it takes them out of their isolation of just looking at their music stand. It just keeps reminding them, oh, this is a teamwork. And I think that's what gets lost sometimes, is we have to kind of be explicit about that as teachers and reminding the students. And then, of course, with the audience, maybe we say, putting everything in context of the higher level thing. So this, we have to get this technique. This has to be super, super clear, because we want it to sound brilliant. And, we're trying to inspire, blah, blah, blah. Always putting like a technical comment in context of the musical reason. Otherwise, it's just, what it can become is the teacher just being like, kind of like robot giving directions.
Play this short. Yeah. Yes. Play these notes short. Do this, do that. Right.
You don't have to do it for everything, but I think, we don't have to do it for everything, but I think oftentimes that's what we kind of get stuck in.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is when, particularly my violins this year, they start getting comfortable and they play over the fingerboard and they're not digging in. And I'm always like, and our concert hall is really big, and in the back row, the people need to hear the attack that you have, and you know what I mean. So it's the back row of the audience, not just the front row. So we have to overdo that, and we have to get into the bridge, and, those kind of things.
Also, yeah, exactly. And also, they're coming from like a science class or something. And so they're using a different part of their brain. And it's also giving them the permission to be vulnerable and the permission to just enjoy themselves. And so much there's in high school, there's a lot of peer dynamics going on. So just like making the challenge be in the musical and in the sharing and in the expressive elements. I think we have to kind of overdo that just because, and high school kids can often be very open, and middle school kids can really be very open. So, I mean, and then again, I think that just feeds you as a teacher and helps with burnout.
Right.
At least me it did.
Yeah. I mean, when those moments happen, that's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is great. How about people that are interested in if they're educators right now in the classroom and they're interested in, going to that professional conductor route or the collegiate conductor route? What are some things that or advice you have, or things that you recommend they do?
For sure. When I went into my master's, I was like, I'm just going to go to my master's and I'll get a job right after that, like conducting a professional orchestra. I would say if you can afford it, the more time you can have building the skills with higher level ensembles, the more, because it's almost a different skill set. I mean, people compare it to driving like a, Honda, and I have a Honda, versus like a Ferrari. Like,
right.
It's almost like the level of, like when I conducted the Dallas Symphony, it was just for an audition. I was like, oh my God, like it felt like they could see through me, and I wasn't ready for that. I'd never experienced that before. Mm-hmm. And I realized what they needed from me was so different than what I was used to giving. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you've been when I was conducting a public school for 4 years before doing conducting at graduate level, you just need as much time as you can to kind of learn how to trust again a little bit, yeah. and learn what musicians of different levels need. Okay. And so that being said, I would say if even if you already have your master's, like in music education, maybe do a second master's in conducting.
Yeah. I always think, like even now, like I would love to go back and get another degree just in conducting, so I could do score study and I could learn more strategies and techniques and, have better, all these things. And it's like, well, I'm old. It's hard. I have kids and,
there's lots of avenues. Yeah. There's lots of great conducting workshops, some better than others, in my humble opinion.
Sure.
But there's lots, and, getting groups together. There's lots of community groups. But I would definitely say master's first, then doctorate if you can, and if you can afford it. Georgia State does, I have to pitch, offer a low residency conducting program. It's more for teachers who want to keep their positions and just kind of refine some conducting skills and then go back to their jobs. So that's kind of a nice program.
Is that a master's or a doctorate?
It's a master's.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah. And there's a couple online classes during the year, but it's similar to UGA's SEAT program, except it's in conducting versus education. So that's kind of a really nice thing. But I think it's really it was the hardest for me, the step to take from teaching public school to getting into that first master's program.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to talk to anybody who is wanting to pursue that and give any specific advice.
Well, wonderful. We'll share your contact info in the notes down below. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, any final words for educators out there, whether it's conducting or just working with kids in general, that words of wisdom?
Oh gosh.
Put you on the spot a little bit.
I'm really excited about Atlanta. I think we have a really great music education in our public schools.
Sure.
And I'm excited that the Atlanta Symphony, has Sarah Grant, the VP of education and outreach, and she's really been doing a great job at connecting with teachers and with students. And I feel like these things that were kind of once siloed are starting to to come together a little bit.
That's cool.
That's really, really exciting. I do have to pitch, for Georgia State, we have connections with the aquarium. So students get to perform at the aquarium. We have connections with Atlanta Music Project. So I just think the level of integration of the music education world in Atlanta is really doing well, and I'm excited. It has a lot of momentum right now, and it's exciting to be a part of. I hope that I know it's extremely. I was exhausted every day. Sometimes I would go to bed at 7 p.m. as a high school music teacher, and I just want to make sure that we're all supporting each other, and because we all get in this for great reasons, and I just want to make sure we're all supported, and that each organization and are supporting the others. So hopefully, from Georgia State is supporting high school music teachers and middle school music teachers, et cetera.
I would say for sure that they are. It's no doubt in my mind. But this is, again, really inspiring. Thank you for being here and for the tips,
of course.
for sure. And like I said, it's such an inspiring story. And I'm super excited for where you're going and where you're taking your university. And anybody out there that's interested in studying with just a dynamic conducting teacher, definitely give Tamara a call or an email. And that would be awesome for you to be able to work with her. I'm excited. I got to get you out to my school too. So I know I'm working on that. We've tried a few times. It just hasn't worked out date-wise. But again, thank you so much for being here, Tamara.
Thank you so much for having me. I think this podcast is fantastic. Just getting to hear different voices, and an honor to be a part of it.
Thanks so much. And for our episode number 103, we will see you all later. Thank you for listening. You can support the work I do by hitting that like button and subscribing to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast YouTube channel and visiting www.orchestrateacher.net.